So this is a really quick demo of 5 horns from the pre-nickel plated era. They are R13s, all of them have good dimensions, polycylindrical bore, about 574 at the mid joint, and a varying degree of basically 581 to about 588 up top. A lot of people think that these horns are too early to be R13s. The numbers don't lie, they are actually R13s, but where they differ is, in addition to very specific tone hole placement and undercutting, also the thickness of the walls is different on most of these. And right after this one, the first one I'm going to play is the latest one. I'm going to go backwards, so you can see just how progressively they sound more and more and more vintage. Shortly after they switched to nickel plated versus this matte finish solid German Silver Keywork, the walls got much bigger, because actually this solid German Silver Keywork in many ways is actually darker than the nickel plated Keywork. I find it so interesting that today everybody wants silver plated instruments, and that wasn't a thing before the 80s. What I think people don't like in the nickel plating is slipperiness, and again, the solid German silver, nickel silver, which is very different than nickel plated brass, or even nickel plated nickel silver. It's very different. It doesn't feel slippery at all. So I'm starting with a 71,000. Now all of these unfortunately have different overhauls. Some are in good shape, some are not. Some have different pads, some have different adhesives, different adjustment materials. But what you're going to find is they progressively, again, get more and more vintage. Now I'm playing all of these with the original barrel, and that is also going to accentuate how vintage they sound. And I could very easily make these a lot more applicable in a modern setting with a different kind of barrel, such as a Menig. But anyway, here's the 71,000. I don't really like the setup on this one. This one feels very French to me, very focused sound, and like a lot of Louis Cahuzac. I also think the early Stanley Drucker recordings he's using an early 70,000 like this. Very powerful, very focused horn. You know. So these horns never really get dark. They always hold a great focus. And this is where they differ from the later 70,000s or the early 80,000s. The walls got much bigger. The plating, you can find some more colors. This is extremely resonant. But with this type of bore, it's the focus just is always there, which I like for some things and I don't like for other things. This is very different. This is 68,000, so this is what, a year before, 3,000 horns before. And this actually, I feel, has the biggest bore of any of them, and I actually have trouble focusing with this one. The last one, 71,000, focuses instant. So you hear this actually has a much darker kind of sound, but it also lacks some of that centered focus. Listen again to that 71,000, and some of that's in the barrel. Actually, a lot of these changes are in the barrel, and I don't think they really got the barrel design until about 1968. That's got that more French sound. Once again, back on the 68,000. Almost sounds a little bit like an A clarinet, and I like it. Both of these horns feel a lot less vintage than what comes before it. All right, now this is a 1960, 61, 63,000. This one needs a lot of work, but I really love the voice on this one. Very warm, very cuddly kind of sound. In a lot of ways, there's more warmth there than any of the nickel-plated or later silver-plated instruments. All right, this horn is a 60,000. I got this from Ronald Rubin in the Philly Orchestra. He played this in the Philly Orchestra. This is a 1959. And man, I love this horn so much. It's got a Mark Jacoby overhaul on it. However, this is finally getting too early for me because the high notes are just sharp, and I'll do these all again with a different barrel just to show you how sometimes the intonation is negotiable, sometimes it's not. That's good. That just starts to get really sharp. I love the resonance and the character of it. But it just, once again, it doesn't have quite as much focus, even though it's really ringing, and it's also just a little early. All right, finally, this is the earliest R13 I have measured that is actually real dimensions, actually R13 dimensions. This is 57,000 from 1957. 57 from 57. So this overhaul is pretty good. The overhaul on the last one, 60,000, I love, and the overhaul on the 68,000 I really love. This overhaul is okay. I love the voice on it, I love the focus, but this instrument it feels really small. It feels really tiny. It doesn't get that bigger, broader American sound. Like, it sounds good, but it always feels like I'm playing like E-flat clarinet in a bad way. I love E-flat, but this just feels, it's a great jazz horn, you know? But, it's just something about it doesn't feel like it's projecting the right way. And again, I love the tone on it, but the feel is weird, and even messing around with a million mouthpieces is not quite there. I'm going to try all these one more time. Same order, descending, most recent to least recent, and I'm going to do it with the same barrel. This is a wonderful barrel that's been modified to be like an original Menig barrel. So here's the 71,000, 1963. Amazing how much more modern that is than the 57, but also how much more modern that barrel makes it. All right, here's the 68. Again, I really like the overhaul on the 68. So much sound in it. It almost feels modern in how I'm voicing it. It just lacks a little bit of that center, just a little bit of that focus. 63,000. Even in really rough shape. What a great voice. Fingers ergonomically is not great, you know. It gets some of that A clarinet-esque nature of the 68,000, but it's more focused and it feels more sweet. 60,000. Ron Rubinhorn. So, yeah, that really, you could hear how great that overhaul is. But you hear how when I get into the left hand, even with this barrel, it just goes really sharp. And it's just too high. All right, last one. Last one, 57. You hear how tiny that sound is. That doesn't sound like an R13 to me. Maybe up close, it's got a great projection. That's what's so ironic, but it just doesn't get that big sound. Interesting. These horns are absolutely worth messing around with, and if you can find one in great shape, absolutely worth an overhaul.